Beginning.
You see that?
Oh, yes.
Good. On. Check the speaker system.
In my imagination, they had made this tremendous stadium on the other side of Devil's Tower. And I wanted the stadium to be like 1,000 feet long, maybe 1,500 feet long, and maybe even longer than that. Like, it was almost like a runway for UFOs. And I kind of spitballed the entire ending of the movie based on the Joe Alves design of the base of operations, or the landing zone. I wasn't looking to build the biggest set of all time. I just remember thinking, we can't shoot outside because if it rains, we're messed up. We can't shoot in the rain. So I began looking for the biggest indoor enclosure. Looked all over the world.
We found one up in Tillamook, Oregon, and we all flew up there. And this thing was 300 feet wide and 900 feet long and about 90 feet high. And it would have worked fine, except Georgia Pacific had occupied a section of it, and it wasn't going to work in conjunction with their activity too well. In other words, they'd be having saws going while we were trying to shoot.
And there were a lot of huge indoor enclosures where they built rocket ships and they built big 747s, but nothing that didn't have center dividers, spoiling that big openness. The only place in the world that was big enough for the set that did not have center dividers was on this disused Air Force base in Mobile, Alabama, where they used to make World War II blimps, dirigibles.
Finally, someone came up with this place in Mobile, Alabama, which was 300 by 300. And it was fine. It wasn't big enough, but the doors opened up all the way, so we could extend it. We had to extend the back section of the set by building a huge scaffold, and the scaffold was about 8 stories high, and then we made this incredible large black background thing, which took like 4 months to make.
And that was really the ideal place for us, because it was big, and Joe could build his set there, and it looked really like the real location, actually. It was amazingly beautifully built.
We had Devil's Tower, and we had an encampment there. We had sort of like a trailer city. So all these units would have to be in sort of module, movable kind of pods. And that's the design we came up with. They weren't actually modeled after anything, but we talked to Houston people and said, what would you do if an alien ship would arrive? And what kind of equipment would you have? So we built these various modules, and we were able to rent a lot of equipment that went inside these little pods.
Translation airlock on their audio signal. Take note of this conversation now.
We were trying to come up with a visual image of musical notes. And we had talked about a large TV screen, but I was trying to work on a design that would take notes and colors and integrate them. So I made this big sort of rectangle, and we had like hundreds and hundreds of wires that went from the scoreboard, so to speak, to a piano. And then we had somebody off stage just playing these colors. And John came up with these brilliant notes.
We pre-recorded some music for the mothership landing and the communication between the Earthlings and mothership with these musical signals. So before I saw a script or any film or anything, maybe as much as a year before, we went into the studio at Fox Studios, I remember very well, to record on synthesizers and keyboards the sequence of signals to be filmed in the following year.
On Close Encounters, it was very important that John become a major character, because music was the actual avenue of communication. That's exactly how they communicated. They communicated through lights, colors, and music. That's what I written in the script. I don't know where that came from, but I just thought it would be really cool to have aliens and humans communicating by what reaches us quicker than anything, which is the passion of music.
Stephen kept saying it must be 5 notes. And I remember saying to him that if I could make it 7 notes or 8 notes.
And I somehow felt that 7 notes would have been too much of a melody. But 5 notes somehow, just intuitively, I felt 5 notes is more of a hello 7 notes is more of a hello. You know, I didn't want a song or an opera. I just wanted a greeting.
To write a melody for 5 notes seemed harder to me than if I could have 7, 8, or 9 notes. I could do better, I thought, said I to Stephen. And he said, no, it shouldn't even be a melody. It should be more like somebody pushes a doorbell, like Avon calling, you know, ding dong. It's not a melody. It's not even a phrase. It's just musical intervals.
And so John went through dozens, if not hundreds, of permutations trying to find the 5 notes that pleased us.
I thought we'd exhausted everything, maybe 300 examples of the 5-note variations within the scale. And Stephen said, no, there must be more. I will call a mathematician friend, ask him how many 5-note combinations within the 12-note scale that we have can be created. How many 5 within 12? So the chap rang us back an hour or so later, and he said approximately 134,000 something or other. I mean, we had barely begun to explore what could be done with 5 notes. So finally, in exasperation, we chose the little da 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 da, the one that we have, which is one on my list. I put a circle around it. The next day, we come back and I play some more. He said, play me the one with the circle. We go back to that thing. And we kept coming back. Finally, I said, well, I guess that's it. You know, must be the best we can have. Now, of course, it's very familiar, which gives me pleasure because in the beginning it was as remote as all of the other 300 examples of 5 notes.
Steven Spielberg always related to me. You know, I was the first child that he had really worked with, and he kind of adopted me. My mom tells the story that at one point he asked her to give me up. He's like, just give him to me. But he was my pal. He always explained things to me. There's an old Hollywood saying, never work with children, never work with animals. Well, you can't communicate with animals, so I understand that. But you can communicate with children, and I think that's one of Steven Spielberg's gifts. He communicates well with children.
He was 3.5 years old when he made the movie. And he responded to visual aids more than anything else. He responded to, I would bring gift boxes to the set with a toy inside. And I would slowly unwrap the gift, telling him all along this was a present I had bought for him while the cameras were rolling. And I put the gift in the stepladder, so it would be as if he was looking up at the colors coming from the clouds down toward his farmhouse. And so as he's staring up, what he's really looking at, and the reason he's smiling like that is his eyes are salivating. I am kind of torturously unfolding this gift wrapping, undoing the bow one ribbon at a time and taking down the sides of the gift wrapping until a little toy car came out. And at one point in the movie, he actually says, toys, toys, because I brought toys out for him.
Toy! Toy!
And of course, at the end of the take, you got to keep the toys.
And Steven always would pull me aside and he'd lay things out. He never tried to shock me or surprise me. It was always, let me explain it to you so you don't get scared. The one time Steven did not keep me informed was when I come into the kitchen and everything is spread out on the floor. He had one of the guys on the crew wearing a gorilla outfit. And when I came around the corner, here's this gorilla.
I dressed up our makeup man as a gorilla. And I dressed up another character as a clown. And I had them in big cardboard boxes. So when he came into the room, I didn't tell him, I just said, you have to come in and stop right on the line. He almost looks down at his mark, actually, when he comes in, because he was so obsessed with stopping on the line. And he stops. Then I unveiled the clown. At first, he was scared at first. And he looked at it and began to slowly smile. And then I signaled for the box to be taken off of the gorilla. He took a step back, and he gets completely... And then I whispered, take off your head. And the makeup man took off his head. And Cary saw that his friend, the makeup man, was inside the gorilla suit, and then the smile erupted. And that's one take. You can't do that twice.
After the whole gorilla affair, that's what I'll call it, since I was scared by it, it became sort of a joke, and there's a picture of me wearing the gorilla head. And of course, it gives you some idea just how small a child I was. A normal-sized man could wear this head, and it would look all right, but the gorilla head came down, you know, to my chest. It just swallowed me.
Roy Arbogast was what you would call a physical effects
supervisor on Close Encounters.
Unit 211, 1030.
He was really in charge of any physical thing that needed smoke, pyrotechnics, physical movement.